Hello, welcome to the 10th episode of Tag Talk. My name is Kylie. This is Haley, and we have a special episode planned for you. It's our 10th episode. We got some fun things to talk about. We got some viewer questions that we're going to answer. It's just a fun, carefree episode. So, before we begin, I have to ask Haley, what happened to your Monsters Inc. mug?
I've retired that mug, to be honest. I almost broke it the last time that we filmed with it. It's just too heavy. And it's a lot to bring in and out of screen. It's so distracting. So we got this today. I'm sipping on a chai latte.
Listen, every time Haley drinks these chai lattes, she goes off the rails. So that's how you know Tag Talk 10 is going to be memorable.
I have no energy. I stayed up and watched GCW and JCW last night. I'm tired.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about those, but I think the big news of the week in tag team wrestling is the AEW's Trios Tournament bracket that got released. And I have a lot of thoughts about this bracket, a lot of, interesting matchups, some missed opportunities, but I think the big talking point is that the Young Bucks are going into the Trios Tournament without a third partner.
Yeah. We saw on Dynamite that the Bucks had gone to speak to Hangman and to kind of just apologize. Well, Matt was apologizing, and it was very heartfelt. I was crying. I think Kiley was crying. I was like, oh, finally, they're gonna reunite. He's gonna be their partner. And then Hangman's like, I'm sorry. I knew you were gonna do this. I'm sorry, but I can't be your partner. I'm not going to be in the tournament at all. I'm going to be in the Dark Order's corner because they were there for me when I won the title, and I want to be there for them. So, I can't be your partner. I'm sorry.
Which is interesting because, of course, that I know a lot of people are speculating that Kenny Omega is going to be the mystery partner. And, they could have a bunch of other people. There's other people the Young Bucks are connected to. But I don't know. I just feel like AEW doesn't have a history of teasing something and then just being like, haha, gotcha. Here's something that's also cool, but not what you've wanted for the last 2 months. So yeah. I don't know. I think they'll find a way to get Hangman in there somehow.
I think it's Hangman too. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, this kind of all not started, but Matt Hardy, and we've talked about it on a past episode. I kind of alluded to it. Had sent the text to Matt Jackson from Hangman's phone. So I'm wondering, while he's on his little, apology tour, if, maybe on BTE we'll see him speak to Hangman and be like, hey, listen, and maybe, I don't know. I think we do get Hangman somehow, some way. Maybe the Dark Order is, pushing him. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking, too. I'm really wondering if, I told you about this. I'm wondering if the Young Bucks are going to show up to the Trios Tournament and they're going to be like, we have no one. Because
alone.
Well, because they've been alone this entire time. And all their friends came back, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, and they immediately ditched them. They were like, bye. So I'm wondering if the Young Bucks are going to be like, we have no one. We have to forfeit the tournament. Hangman's going to
sad.
It's an interesting role reversal though, because when the Young Bucks took in Hangman into the Bullet Club and Ring of Honor, he was the lonely dude.
Yeah.
And now it's the Young Bucks have no one. They've burned all these bridges, and their friends are out, they're injured, they're off doing other things. All they have is Hangman, and that's so sad. Poor Hangman. He's really in a bad position here. And I would like to see an Elite and Dark Order final. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the House of Black is being on the side with the Dark Order basically means that Dark Order is going to be gone. But I don't know. It's really interesting. And them introducing the Miro story with Miro accepting his House of Black powers and going after the House of Black with his House of Black powers. Maybe that means the House of Black gets eliminated early from the tournament.
Yeah, I thought that maybe Miro would cost the House of Black, and that would be how Dark Order goes over, because I don't think that the Dark Order go over any other way. I think the House of Black could take the loss here. I think Dark Order needs it more, to be honest. So
Yeah, and Dark Order, for most of their AEW tenure, have kind of been, a team that's credible because people like them and, they're all very talented, but they've never been in a place where they could legitimately win the tag titles. And it would be interesting to see them make it to the finals of the Trios tournament and face off against, presumably, the Elite. And the fact that they're on two different sides of the bracket makes me think that's going to happen, which I'm here for, but also only if Hangman is on the side of the Elite.
Yeah, I think we do get Hangman this week, and then because I don't know if the plan is still for Kenny to be in a match with the Bucks at All Out, but obviously that would be the final. So like maybe he gets injured or something, or like gets taken out of the tournament and Kenny has to like step up and we'll see.
I don't know. And I put out a poll. I love my polls. I put out a poll on Twitter this morning that was like, is it Kenny Omega week? Because people thought it was last week. People thought it was the week before. It's been every Wednesday.
Every week on Twitter.
Every Wednesday for like a month, people have been, it's Kenny Omega week. And a lot of people said, yeah, it's Kenny Omega week. Kenny Omega is going to be the mystery opponent. But then you place Hangman in a weird spot because if it is, the Elite versus the Dark Order in the final, like, how do we get Hangman back to the Elite without him screwing over the Dark Order? Like, that doesn't work.
Because then that would be turning Hangman heel, and we don't need a heel Hangman when they're turning babyface. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I think we have precedent of, the Dark Order really pushing Hangman for the world title and supporting him and helping him get his confidence. I wouldn't be surprised if we get maybe early in Dynamite or on BTE, Evil Uno and Hangman really sitting down and Evil Uno being like, look, we can win the trios on our own. Like, this is what you have to do. This is how your next step in your career and, mending these bridges and rejoining the Elite. Like, that's where you belong. Mm-hmm. And I think that it'd be sad because the poor Dark Order. And a lot of people on Twitter were speculating that they're going to break up the Dark Order, which I don't think so. And, the reasoning for this is people, their contract expiring, Anna Jay leaving for JAS. And that's another point. Why isn't JAS in this tournament? I don't know. But I don't know. With -1 being a part of the Dark Order and, all the mystique and like the history there, I think the Dark Order is an AEW thing forever. So I don't think we have to worry about them breaking up.
No, I don't either. But to your point about JAS, I saw a lot of people mentioning the same thing about the Blackpool Combat Club. And I was almost wondering, like, I feel like none of those guys, specifically in BCC, could take a loss, to be honest. Like, I feel like if they were in the tournament, like, they would have to win the tournament. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way they lose. Yeah.
That's true. And, I do hope that William Regal says something about them being, them being left out of the tournament, them being, snubbed, just like, because to me, it just makes sense that every faction would be able to put forth their best members for a trios tournament instead of bringing in guys like Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. And I guess the Trustbusters are now a Ring of Honor AEW standard. I don't know. But I don't know. And JAS not being part of it is weird, like specifically because the only member of JAS who is really involved in like a blood feud right now is Chris Jericho going into All Out. And the rest of the members are just kind of floating. Like, I guess Anna Jay and Ty Conti are involved in, Sammy Guevara drama. But
that's new.
I know. But anyway, but yeah, you have like Hager's doing nothing. Mm-hmm. You have 2.0. They're not doing anything. Like, why? I just don't understand why they're not doing anything going into All Out. And I do think the build to All Out has been great because I think we're getting back to early AEW with very, very long stories that are drawn out versus the last, Full Gear, Revolution, Double or Nothing this past year, where it was very much like rapid build right before the pay-per-views. I think Tony Khan's really toning it down. And I see a lot of people on Twitter saying the build has been bad. Like, we're a couple weeks out from All Out and we don't have a full card, which is fair, but I do think a lot of the stories for All Out are fleshed out a lot more, and I think they're really taking their time with it. But JAS, as much as I don't like them not being in the trios tournament is just absurd to me.
I agree. I don't get it, but
and that's not like the trios tournament. The field is great. Like there's House of Black, Dark Order, Andrade, and it's Roosh and Dragon Lee that's with them, right? Yeah. Death Triangle's in there. There's lots of great teams in there. Oh, Best Friends, which Best Friends I think could be a dark horse. I think they could go pretty far.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the obvious choice for the winner is the Elite. But I don't know, man. Maybe Dark Order takes it.
You think so? Well, I think if Kenny comes back, there's no way the Elite play.
Oh yeah, there's no way. Can you imagine like 10 pins Kenny Omega in the ring at All Out?
No, I love that out there. Look, people are already on our heads about the Young Bucks thing. I don't need this too.
Listen, about the Young Bucks, like, I'm not going to say that we were right, but like, we started picking up on the seeds of the story, like at the beginning of Tag Talk.
Yeah.
So this is a long story they're telling here, and the culmination of it is the reunion of the Elite. I just don't, and I kind of get why Hangman's like, I don't want to do this tournament with you. But also it's like, the Dark Order musical on BTE last week, like Hangman basically said, like he was thinking about being the Young Bucks partner. So I don't know. I think Trios tournament is going to be great. I don't like that Will Ospreay out of the opener here. I don't like that the Trustbusters got a spot over BCC or JAS. But maybe that's just my personal preferences. I mean, you do have to have people in there who are a little bit newer or maybe like could put on a great match, but like they're not going to like lose credibility. I don't know. But overall, I'd say it's a 9 out of 10 for the field, simply because I think there are some missteps there.
A few. but it's good, and there'll be good matches, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, so this week on Dynamite, we get the first matches of the tournament, and it'll take us all the way to the finals at All Out. My early prediction for the final is House of Black and the Elite.
Oh. I'm going Dark Order Elite.
Oh, that'd be such a sad match. But then you have Dark Order over the House of Black early, too.
I know, but I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like it could be either one, to be honest, but I'm going to go Dark Order.
And speaking of Miro, not to like take us off topic, but I was listening. I had Dynamite in one ear. I was on vacation this week, and I was in Chicago. I was with my sister. And I had Dynamite in one ear, just in case Kenny Omega returned, of course. And I hear Miro talking to a woman, and Julia Hart, he's like being mean to Julia Hart. And he's like, there's only one woman who's allowed to touch me. So are we getting Lana in AEW?
Could we see her? I don't know. Maybe she comes in and costs, you know? Maybe she costs the match.
You know what? Tune into Dynamite and we'll see. But also, before we move on from the Trios tournament, Haley and I are doing a bracket challenge. You can fill out your own bracket and participate. You can go to my Twitter for the link to that. You will need your Twitter account to do it. I'm very sorry, but we have to validate it some way, so it's only one entry per person, so it's with your Twitter account. So sad. But you can fill out your whole bracket, and at the end, you'll get a bracket with all your answers, and you can, save it, print it, do whatever you want with it. But if you'd like to participate in that, go to my Twitter account, or Haley, she shared it, and just click the link and fill it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you get 100%, I'll get you a prize. I don't know what the prize is yet. We'll figure it out. I don't think anyone's going to get 100%, but if somehow you do,
then you deserve a prize.
And I'll get you a damn prize. But in other big tag team news this week, we had GCW last night because we're filming this Sunday morning. So Haley, you mentioned that you watched this all night. I am, a bad sport. I didn't stay up and watch it. I watched some clips this morning. But I need, Haley, as our GCW expert, I need your response to.
I love how you call me the GCW expert. Like,
listen, you are.
I'm not, but thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, the match was Los Macizos versus the Briscoes last night for the tag titles. And it was a great match. I think that everybody should definitely go check that out. But yeah, it was Homecoming Part 1. It was great. I didn't expect the Briscoes to win here. Los Macizos previously held the titles. They're the longest reigning GCW tag champions. And I definitely thought we were going to get a very long reign. Not like, I don't even know how many days. It was only a few weeks. But yes, we have new GCW tag champions, the Briscoes. After the match, SGC came out, and they're setting up a triple threat match at Art of War Games in Chicago.
Which
that'll be interesting.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. Mainly because, listen, at the end of Death Before Dishonor, Tony Khan confirmed that the Briscoes were signed to ROH.
Mm-hmm.
And now here they are in GCW. They're apparently still, powerhouses in GCW like they were before. And I'm conflicted about this, mainly because my main criticism of GCW in the last year and a half is that it's getting away from what made GCW popular, and it's doing what they think casuals, casual indie fans, if that's a thing, what they want. And as much as I've loved Mox as, in GCW champion, all the matches he had, he's, an example of that, of GCW really looking at their mainstays or their, historically great talent and just doing weird booking of things to try and get attention, to try and increase viewership. I don't know. And this to me is something like that. I think the Briscoes are great, and I think they've been great in GCW. But this is an absurd situation to me. I don't understand why it happened. And now it makes Los Macizos winning the titles a few weeks ago seem pointless, meaningless, and an unnecessary loss for the chance for Effie and Allie. I just don't understand what's going on here.
I understood why Los Macizos had to win the titles to begin with. Now that they're seemingly back in the U.S., that whole situation was figured out. But I don't understand why they took the loss here. At first I thought maybe it was an accident, the ref was a little, but I don't know. We have this triple threat now. I'm like, are the Briscoes going to stay champs? Are we just flip-flopping the titles? What's going on here?
Yeah, and now, and I think back to, FTR versus the Briscoes too, when, everyone thought the Briscoes were going to win. And now I'm like, well, did they lose because they were going to go do this in GCW? And the relationship between Ring of Honor and GCW is so weird, and I'm not sure I want that.
Yeah, and, not to get off topic, but there were, Blake Christian came out last night and was cutting a promo, and it was very odd. He said some very odd things and alluded to him not being around in GCW as much anymore. Obviously, there are reports that he is on a deal with AEW/Ring of Honor now. Very odd. Just very odd situation, these two things. I don't know.
Yeah, I think GCW is in a weird place. This year, GCW has just been one weird incident after another weird incident, over and over again, nonsensical booking, repeated matches, stories that are just tossed aside for seemingly no reason. And I'm looking at this promotion and it looks nothing like what it looked like when I fell in love with GCW. And I was talking to Haley yesterday. I totally forgot it was homecoming weekend. There was nothing on this card that made me, remember that it's homecoming weekend. And, Mox and Effie, that's a big match. And I've heard, good things about it. But it's like, I don't know. There's nothing original about this anymore. And not to be like that person, but, Brett Lauderdale hanging around with WWE makes a lot more sense now with this is how he's going to book GCW.
I really enjoyed the show as a whole. I thought it was good. But I definitely see where you're coming from. I think there's parts of GCW that are still very strong and very great, notably, the deathmatch side of GCW, which a lot of, GCW fans love and support. But I think that there are other aspects that need a little work. And, the tag titles are a little suspicious. We don't get a ton of women's matches. That's a whole other thing.
No, you're definitely right. It's like the big focus of GCW is like the men's singles titles.
Yeah.
And specifically like the GCW, world title with Mox and Matt Cardona in the last year and like these big star names. But I don't know. I hope GCW gets its act together. Maybe the Briscoes are going to get a long reign and we can get some more stability back in the division. That would be nice. I do think SGC deserves the titles more, which if SGC does win, then we're back to where we were with flip-flop of the title. So it's like we're in a bad place now. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just think it's weird. The tag team scene in GCW is, not doing it for me. They're definitely in a valley, not a peak. But
and two, I want to say, because Homecoming Part 2 is later today, when we're filming. Los Macizos are scheduled to be in a match with Murdoch and Cologne, I think, for the titles. So how does that work? Is it just a standard match now? I'm so confused.
I have no idea. And maybe it was a last minute decision. And they,
that's why I'm like, I don't know if that was supposed to happen, but it happened. So I don't know.
And now here we are. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was a last minute thing. Like something happened and they were like, we got to get the belts off them just in case. Like maybe there was an emergency or something. I don't know. Regardless,
we'll see.
GCW, we need to have a chat. Me and you, let's sit down. We need to have a chat because, goodness.
Oh man.
I don't know. I think in all of tag team wrestling and like in all of North American wrestling, it's in a weird place. I don't think anyone is doing tag team wrestling, good. Or no, I shouldn't say good. I should say excellent because AEW does good tag team wrestling all the time. I don't know. I think the AEW Trio Tournament is going to be great. I think it'll bring some life into it. I have no hope for WWE ever. And GCW, don't know what they're doing.
Listen, they're Kiley used to love GCW, by the way.
Yeah.
Like she was a very big fan of GCW. But this year
it was like I was so in love. And like up to Hammerstein, I was like, this is very, very weird, but like I'm gonna have faith, trust the process, like let it play out, all the cliches. And then it was Hammerstein, and I was like, oh, I actually like don't like this anymore. And I gave a couple shows, some time, but it was like, oh, everything I love is gone.
Yeah.
And it's replaced with Jeff Jarrett.
You went to Atlanta in March?
I did.
I
did. I went to Atlanta in March, and that was a good show. But the best part of it was the women's match. And it's crazy because the crowd was hottest for the women's match. And, the SGC tag match at the end because, SGC crazy spots, all the things. But yeah, GCW, I don't know, not listening to the audience, I guess. Maybe that's the conclusion. What? I'm not going to sugarcoat things. And if Brett Lauderdale happens to see this and he takes issue with it, like, we can sit down and chat. Like,
listen, like I've said before, bullying, not really bullying, constructive criticism works.
Yes, I do think it's important to talk about the bad parts of promotions, even if you love them. Because if you don't give attention to the bad, then the bad just gets worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden you end up with a bad promotion like the WWE.
Yeah.
That's it. And some people are going to comment. I know they are. She hates WWE. Why does she talk so much about WWE? I don't hate WWE.
Make it an AEW show if you're just going to hate on WWE.
We get that every week, and I need you guys to understand we don't hate WWE. We are just frustrated.
We both keep up. Like, we watch pay-per-views. Like, I watch shows. Like, we don't hate them. We're just being critical, and it's not our fault that 9 times out of 10 it's bad.
It's not our fault that we have more to critique with WWE than any other promotion in the West. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. And I do love WWE. I want them to succeed, especially because a lot of wrestlers I love are in the WWE now. So it's not hate to say that WWE's product overall is subpar compared to their competition.
And when you're the biggest company in the world, you got to step up. But anyways.
And not to go into ratings talk, because I hate talking about ratings and business, because I'm a wrestling fan, not a business fan. But if WWE succeeds, everyone succeeds. I said it last week. I'll say it this time. And for that reason, I'm never, ever, ever going to stop talking about WWE, because if WWE gets attention and, positive attention for the good things they do, then everyone is better overall. That's my piece on it. But should we transition into viewer questions?
Yes. We got a few good ones.
Yes. I mean, they kind of tie into what we've been talking about. So anyway, our first question comes from Don Becker. Which championship should FTR go after next, AEW or GCW? So Haley, before we went live, Haley had a point about this. So I'm going to let Haley talk about it.
So my answer before the events of Homecoming last night were, well, obviously they need to go for the AEW titles. The story is there. It's organic, whatever. But then the Briscoes won GCW titles. And I was like, listen, FTR and the Briscoes, they put on amazing matches. Both of their matches in Ring of Honor, so great. And I was like, you know what? This... And the GCW fans are going to get so mad at me for saying this. But I would love to see them compete in GCW and win the title. Listen, I'm going to get hate for that. I don't care.
I know. They're going to come for you. And FTR doesn't, feel like the natural fit into GCW. Like,
they don't.
It seems like night and day. But
I would love to see how they would work a match in GCW.
And it does feel like the natural progression of the feud to be in a promotion where you can be like super violent and super hardcore in a way you probably couldn't do in Ring of Honor. Because the Ring of Honor is like a different culture, different rules, things like that.
Or even on AEW TV.
Yeah. So it does feel like the natural progression of the rivalry. I just don't want the next match so soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, we can cool off a little bit on this and, like, really build it up. If the Briscoes stay champs, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see it. And I think the next challengers for the AEW tag titles is the Acclaimed. I think it's going to be the Acclaimed versus Swerve and Our Glory. Just because the Acclaimed, they're getting big wins, big matches on TV. People love them. It's about time. Yeah, they need their titles. They need their title shot, especially when Bowens came back from injury and it was like a surprise return from injury. Like, the ball got rolling then. And I think that match would be excellent. But after that, I guess you could do FTR. But I don't know. The idea of, FTR showing up at GCW is interesting.
Like, I don't even know what show they would put them on. Like, I have no idea. But, and two, some things happened with Mox's entrance at Homecoming last night. There were it's a big GCW show, people drank. It happens. So I would be kind of scared seeing FTR in that environment just because the fans, but like, I think
it will be like when FTR went to Mexico to defend the AAA titles and they were getting like harassed by the crowd. Like, it was so bad. And poor Vicky like was their manager for that match. And they're getting slapped, they're getting grabbed, people are yelling at them, like spitting. It was crazy. They are hated in Mexico. And like it'd be the same thing in GCW. Like I don't think
it really would.
Like I don't
think GCW brutal.
like FTR and like everything they stand for with wrestling, and you know, like their whole gimmick, their whole thing is at odds with everything GCW is. Like you think about some of the wacky stuff that happens in GCW, and like deathmatch stuff aside, like everything else just insane. And FTR, like they don't vibe with that. So I'd be scared. They need bodyguards.
They do. And listen, I would love to see them go through like a pane of glass or like, you know, like gusset plates, like something. Like I need like hardcore, like I just want to see FTR like take like a bump, like a bad bump. Like because we don't get that in Ring of Honor or AEW, so I just want to see it one time.
And you know what? Like FTR is doing this whole thing where they're building their legacy. They're on tour to build their legacy and blah blah blah. Like you want to build your legacy, prove you can hang in this environment.
Yes, because GCW fans are brutal. Like if they don't like you, they don't like you. And it most of the time, like unless you're doing like hardcore stuff, like you gotta earn your stripes with them, with the crowd. Yeah. So the only way that I think that they would be able to is, you know, something deathmatchy.
Listen, you have me convinced. Like now I want to see it. It'd be so crazy.
It would. And the tubes, imagine FTR getting hit with like
imagine Cash Wheeler like picks up a tube and he's like, what do I do with this?
It's just like a lightsaber fight with Jay Briscoe.
I want it so bad now. They go from fight like a little girl to Nick Gage mode. Like
fight like Nick Gage.
Fight like Nick Gage. It'd be so great. Listen. Oh, and oh my goodness, you know what that also brings up for me? Wardlow and GCW. Powerbomb through glass.
Oh man.
Listen, pinnacle to GCW. Let's do it. All of them.
I feel like Tony's phasing out a lot of like AEW talent in GCW, and you know, GCW fans are kind of fed up with people in AEW coming to their promotion, but just give me FTR one time.
Listen, GCW fans, you cannot tell me that this wouldn't be an incredible spectacle. to see Dax Harwood, like this prim, proper man who just like drinks tequila and wears suits. You can swinging a light tube? That'd be great. You can't tell me you wouldn't be down for that.
Yeah, I mean, and even if they would be like, oh, like nobody wants to see that, you would be watching. Don't even start. You would watch.
And you would all watch it, and you would get in your little group chats, and you'd be like, FTR are so hardcore. You know it would happen.
It would. I know people that would do that.
Listen, and if they want to cancel us for saying that, they can cancel us for saying that. But FTR GCW against the Briscoes, against anyone, would be excellent. And you know what? FTR versus Bussy in GCW, 5 stars in the Observer. I'm telling you right now, I'm predicting it. It'd get 5 stars. Dave Meltzer would salivate for it.
He really would. If they didn't lose the titles, imagine the triple threat with Bussy, FTR, and the Briscoe.
Brett Lauderdale, if you're watching this,
we're giving you matches for free. I would go to that show.
We're giving you so much content right now.
You're so welcome, Brett.
I am so convinced now that we need to start the FTR to GCW movement. I'm going to start a hashtag, and we'll take it from there.
If we can do the Hung Bucks revolution, we can do this.
Listen, this is our next step in our evolution.
We're just taking over tag team wrestling.
Listen, until someone trusts us with the books and we can book our own division. This is our next step. And, you know, FTR to GCW, hashtag it, tweet it. So we have one more question because we wanted to spend a lot of time on these questions. It comes from Morgan. What are your thoughts on AEW doing mixed tag titles or a tournament? So I have to collect my thoughts here for a second. So I'm not opposed to mixed tag titles or a tournament or anything like that, as long as it's intergender. I think where, mixed match challenge in WWE goes wrong a lot of the time is that it's, men fight the men and women fight the women. And it makes the flow of the match like so chunky and not fun. And you get no team cohesiveness really, because the teams would be breaking the rules by doing that. But in intergender, you can have like that free flowing, element of it in tag team wrestling, and the teamwork, the collaboration, the, double moves, all that stuff. You would get that. In AEW, I'm not sure how many mixed teams you have like already set up and available. Like, Ty and Sammy, Dante and Sky Blue, someone and Julia Hart, Chris Statlinger's out on injury. Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone, like we could do that.
I mean, you could do Britt and Adam, I guess.
I don't know if you would want to put Adam in something like that, though.
Is it?
No.
Why not?
And it's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that I don't think AEW needs any more titles. I think we reached the threshold and we're past it now, especially with men's singles titles. Like, what are we doing? My two main concerns are, one, I don't know how many natural, tag teams there are instead of, just shoving people together. And two, I don't think it would be good for the women, such a small division, to have so many of them sequestered in mixed tag when, the women's division is kind of, in a turbulent period with injuries and all that sort of stuff that's happened in the last year. So those are my main two, criticisms and worries. But like, I'd be here for it. If they announced it, and they were like, we're going to do this tournament heading into Full Gear or heading into Revolution or whatever, and it's going to be intergender and TNT's like A-okay with it, I'd be here for it.
I guess for me, like, I feel like if they introduce any titles now, it would have to be like women's tag titles. But their women's division is just not there yet, so they can't even do that. So I think if they were to do that, like, that would be way down the line. I would love to see it. Like you said, it would definitely have to be intergender. But, there's definitely an audience for it, especially, some things that have happened in WWE, like Rhea, and Dom, that whole dynamic. I love that. And fans, like, were salivating for that, probably because it's Rhea Ripley. But, people loved that. That dynamic. And I think AEW is, if any promotion is going to, like, big time promotion is going to do it, I think it would be AEW, but not now.
Yeah, maybe in the future, because, we did on the Jericho Cruise, we did get that Kenny Omega Riho versus Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford match. And that was a star-making performance for Penelope Ford, and you never got to see it because, TV rules and everything. But Penelope Ford and Kenny Omega working together, it was excellent. And if that had been on TV, it would have set Penelope Ford up to be a women's world champion. Like, flat out. Like, if all of you should go back and watch that match, even if you've seen it, because Penelope Ford really shined.
It's one of my favorite AEW matches ever.
Yeah, it was really good. And, a lot of that, Kenny Omega, he's really good about getting the most out of people. But Penelope Ford is a lot better than, she's been presented as. And when she's in the ring with great, all-time great workers like Kenny Omega, she really does shine. And that was a great performance for her. And it sucks that we didn't get to see it. And so if AEW did have an intergender division or intergender like precedent for TV or something like that, that would have been a lot of fun. But the issue is that, like, there's such a stigma against it because it's like men hitting women. And, like, I understand. I get where the concern comes from. And I do think there are a lot of viewers who maybe don't want to see that because of their own trauma, their own relationship with, things like that. But I also think that how do I phrase this delicately? I also think that intergender wrestling is special in that way. And I think it sort of devalues women's athletes to say, like, oh, you could never, ever, ever realistically compete with this man. And that's what a lot of people say when they critique intergender wrestling. It's not realistic. Like, I can't suspend my belief in, like, all the things. But that's like insulting. You know what I mean?
Like, who's to say that a woman can't beat a man's ass? You know?
Yeah.
Like just acting like women are these like delicate beings, especially in wrestling when women have so much to prove. I don't agree with that part of it. Like, I understand, people who may be uncomfortable, like you said, because of their own traumas and experiences. Like, that's totally understandable. But just the misogyny of it, no, I'm not here for that.
Yeah, and it's entirely realistic. And I think a lot of people who say that don't really have an understanding of how, real martial arts works.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying this to be like pretentious or anything, but there's a lot of things that factor into, grappling or, striking, martial arts, whatever, instead of just like brute strength. Mm-hmm. And you do see that with wrestlers, like when you have like a small guy and a big guy in a match, you get to see that. But it's like getting over getting people to get over their issues with gender. That's really where we are, and making people realize that, these women talent, they aren't at a disadvantage just because they're women. And like, it doesn't make it not realistic for them to get offense in just because they're women. And I'm not saying that if you subscribe to those beliefs that you're like an idiot or anything like that. I just think there's a lot of misinformation, and the narrative crafted around intergender wrestling is not necessarily accurate or based in like the reality of combat sports.
It's kind of the same with like, and not to get off topic, but like deathmatch wrestling too. I feel like deathmatch wrestling and intergender wrestling kind of go hand in hand in that way. And I think that there are a lot of performers and people out there that are trying to break that stigma, and they're doing it very well. The Kirks, for example, they put on great matches on the indies, but yeah, I think it's something that we definitely, as society, need to get over.
Yeah, and I do think AEW could lead the charge in that. I don't know. I do think adding in some intergender matches, if not a tournament or titles or like a whole division, just adding in some, I think would really do a lot, because, like I said, Penelope Ford shined against Kenny Omega. Like Kenny Omega does what he does for all the male talent, and it wasn't any different for her just because she's a woman. Like, she did amazingly. And I still think we should have gotten Kenny Omega versus Nyla Rose at Tony Khan. Why didn't we ever get that match?
Listen, if anybody in AEW could get intergender wrestling over, it would be Kenny. Like, he'd be so down for that. I mean, even the Bucks too. Like, they've done stuff. Notably their spot with Candice LeRae. Like, come on.
Yeah. And I just think, it's intergender, it's popular on the indies. It's just about getting it on TV and not attracting the negative attention of misogynists. That's where we're at. I don't think we're there yet where we could have it on TV like every week and it'd be fine. Yeah. There's too many people who are against it, but maybe in the future. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's all we have for you guys this week. Thank you for joining us for Tag Talk 10. Can't believe we've had 10 episodes of Tag Talk. This was a lot of fun to do. I'm so glad we started doing this show. And what?
Kylie, are you frozen? Oh no!
Are you frozen? Did we lose Haley?
Oh no!
Oh, you're back! You're back!
What was that? You were gone too. What was that?
I don't know, but do you want to do your plugs before something bad happens?
The misogynists are coming for us. They're trying
to
silence us.
Do you want to do your plugs?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter right there. See everything that I'm doing. I don't have any other plugs. That was it.
You can follow me on Twitter at Fuller_Kylie. I post everything I'm doing there. You can see both of us every Sunday at 5 p.m. on Fightful Overbooked for Tag Talk. You can see me every Monday at 3 on Body Slam Net for Code of Honor podcast, talking about Ring of Honor. There's no episode this week because Kyle's traveling and I was traveling this week, and it just didn't work out that way. But normally Mondays at 3. You can go to my Twitter to do your Trio Tournament bracket. Join in on the fun. Also, go follow at Romantic Wrestle on Twitter. That is our new sort of venture. We're talking about stories in wrestling. We have some things coming up, some new people joining the team. So go follow that on Twitter to keep track of that. Subscribe to Fightful Overbooked, like this video, comment below. Let us know your thoughts on the trios, on intergender wrestling, on all the things. Just comment below. And go check out the other content on Fightful Overbooked. Did I hit all the plugs? I think I hit all the plugs.
Oh. Also, because you brought up romanticized wrestling, go check out our first episode. Kylie and I did a whole deep dive on the Hung Bucks and their story so far. So definitely go check that out. It's up on YouTube. You can find it on our Twitters or the Romanticized Wrestling Twitter.
Yeah, so go to @RomanticWrestle on Twitter for that. I think that covers everything. Thank you for joining us for Tag Talk 10, and thank you for being here for us for 10 entire weeks. We are so grateful for all of you, and we'll see you next.